Services Lavazzi at who1.co.uk present the 20 megabyte Doctor Who podcast.
Hello and welcome to the 20 megabyte Doctor Who podcast, episode 489. I'm Adam, and
The past is another country. 1987 is just the Isle of Wight.
I've been practicing that impression for ages. And here's Mary Lang.
The world's coming to an end, and what do? Cling to the youngest blonde?
Kirby Bartlett Sloan.
Watson, come here. I need you. Which is a misquote, by the way.
Yeah, thank you for that. She's back. It's Kirsty Bissett.
Oh, just carry on. It's good enough for Lady Di.
And Ben Shoveler.
Manchester is red. Sorry, that means nothing to anyone who doesn't know about the latest football results from this. Am I really loud? I'm going to turn myself down a bit.
No, you're fine. No, stay as you are. Stay as you are. Yes.
Don't let us turn you down.
Yes, Kirby, what's the matter?
Would you have used that quote if I hadn't used it as my request for feedback?
What, the past is another country, 1987? Yes, because I already had it recorded. It's one of my long time. This jingle dates back to 2012, you know, which is a rather appropriate year for Doctor Who.
Because
right.
You'll notice that I used it for the feedback request.
I didn't know because I've been quite.
And
busy.
it was going to be my quote, but you took it.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes, isn't it? Right then, so we've got
Kirby.
stuff coming through on the live feed already.
Kirby, honey, don't grovel.
Kirby, honey. That sounds like a
Don't
song.
grovel. It's not.
That's a song like by ABBA, isn't it? Kirby, honey. Oh, you yeah, Alan T. Butcher says, I think Adam has invisible hair on which that crown... Oh, I've got a crown on my head, by the way, for the benefit of the Facebook viewers, because it's my royal roots. For some reason, I can't see all this. Let's make this bigger.
Are you bragging about your royal roots?
Yeah, I've got nothing else to brag about, Ben, apart from Saints winning this week.
I go to the salon and get your roots redone.
Oh, be quiet. I've got nothing else to brag about. Hey, look, there's me. Apart from... There we are. So I'm just trying to see what people are saying. Right then. Yeah, so Lillian Robbins says, is that your crowning achievement? Boom, Terry Miles says, Adam, the others on the podcast are very quiet. Well, that's because if I have them up too loud, a certain person goes, I might get into trouble. I will turn it up. There you go. Well, I hope that comes out a bit louder for everybody. What else we got?
Person sounds like Beaker.
Baker? What are you on about? Oh, be quiet. Alan T. Butcher says...
Down, Beaker.
Alan T. Butcher says, I think Adam has invisible hair on which that crown is resting, some distance above his head. That's magic. No, he's in the other room, sorry. Lillian Robbins says,
like you have your dog on your head?
TikTok.
I know what I should be watching this Facebook feed.
Lee Anthony Davis.
And a crown.
All right. Lee Anthony Davis says, hello, Adam. Remember, you can promote your podcast on my official Doctor Who group on Facebook. I think that's the one we didn't get slagged off on, so I'm happy to do that. Or if you can do it for me, Lee. I'm quite busy doing the podcast, but thank you anyway. Brandon Moore says, howdy. And then, are you the new star of The Crown? I wish. And then, Adam, the others on the podcast are too loud.
Sorry, what?
And then Neil James says, happy Father's Day, guys. Not till June, I don't believe, Father's Day. Which is a good segue, because that's what we're going to do this week. We're going to be reviewing Father's Day, which begins with a photograph of the chap that plays Rose's dad, zoomed in rather dramatically to his eyes. And then Deb were talking about this at the beginning of the episode, about how this little girl that's supposed to be Rose, when she's a little girl, sitting on the bed and being told about her dad, probably about for the umpteenth time.
But her eyes are the wrong colour.
Yeah, I don't think this little girl's eyes are the wrong colour. It's the baby's eyes.
Oh, okay.
But anyway.
Babies' eyes do change colour as they get older.
They do.
Yeah, but that happens when they're still really young, while they're still babies. Yeah. It doesn't happen when they're... No. It doesn't wait for them to get older.
Yeah, by the time they're about 6 weeks old, they've got their eye colour.
Yeah.
My youngest eyes, his are actually leaning towards more green. They used to be really blue like mine. Now they're actually leaning more towards green. So anyway.
Isabella's eyes used to be really
TV
bright
program,
blue,
you know.
and now
I
they're
had
sort of grey
eyes
blue.
when I was a baby.
You had what?
Unlike the rest of us.
Well, this is one of the things, isn't it?
You had what when you were a baby?
Eyes.
Ice. Oh yeah, I have that in when I have
eyes.
Oh, eyes. Oh, sorry.
I'm so glad I went and get my really expensive professional microphone for you, Adam. And I've spent the last 15 minutes. Yes. I've just changed the stand while you didn't notice. I'm now on a flexible, movable stand.
I'm sitting down.
I was being facetious, but hey.
Yeah, I'm sitting down as well.
Not changing the habits of a lifetime at all. Right then. So meanwhile in the TARDIS, Rose is moaning because she her dad died in a car crash and he died alone, and she wants the opportunity to see him and stuff. So the Doctor takes Rose to see his wedding to Jackie, and then
the Doctor's had a wedding with Jackie.
What? Very funny, Kirby.
Just
and you wonder why you don't get dings.
Is that a euphemism? No? Okay.
That's what he said.
So after going to the wedding, Rose sort of badgers the Doctor. It was a little bit of soft touch in this story to start off with, into allowing her the opportunity, as her dad gets run over, to sort of hold him as he dies. Did anybody notice, as the camera passed by a load of posters, the Energised poster says "Bad Wolf" on it? Anybody see that?
Yes.
Oh, no, I didn't notice.
Kirby never saw, ever.
He'd say yes. Yeah, he'd say yes whether he saw it or not.
Bad wolves are.
Okay, you do you?
I know you do, dear.
Yes.
There's only one bad wolf, and she's always in the TARDIS.
So anyway, so she Pete gets run over for the first time, and Rose doesn't do anything; he just dies. So the Doctor gives, rather stupidly, her a second chance, and instead of running over to hold him as he died, she saves his life. What? God's sake!
When they're looking out the street there, and there's those fence posts, the brick fence posts of the white and red bricks.
Yes.
That's the same street that in a few episodes, Jackie will be driving that tow truck down.
We know this, Kirby.
Okay, thank you, Kirby. Totally irrelevant to what we're talking about now, but thank you anyway.
No, I think it was a very relevant point.
You think it was relevant, do you? Okay, so let's have a vote on how relevant that was. So Kirby and Ben say it was. Anybody like to make it even and think that was relevant out of the rest of you? No, right. So that means it's irrelevant.
Nope.
Right.
Hold on, Donald Trump. Hold on a minute.
It's not irrelevant. It's a hippopotamus.
Hey!
Oh, there you go.
I just snagged my knee on something.
And we're all friends again.
Yes, like I say, Rose decides to save P, and a very creepy scene sort of appears as she goes all gooey-eyed. And as soon as she does that, something's flying in the sky with weird red eyesight, who's sort of just looking over the neighbourhood. And Rose goes back to Pete's flat. Is that the flat that she currently lives in, or is it a different one?
Yes.
Yeah, it was the same flat, I think.
Thought it might.
Same flat, but it's been decorated 80s style.
80s style.
So loads of shoulder pads everywhere.
Brandon Moore says the Reverend got eaten by the Reaper. Yes, he did. So anyway, the Doctor sort of follows Rose and Pete into the flat with his arms folded. The body language tells me that he's not particularly happy with this situation.
Really? I hadn't noticed.
He's scowling for England. But anyway, eventually he tells her off, and says he's had enough of the what's the apes comment, Kirby? I'm giving you opportunity here.
Yeah, here you go.
What?
The apes comment.
Geez.
Hello?
I don't remember.
You don't remember the apes comment? Kirsty, can you remember the apes comment?
No, I was relying on Kirby, but Kirby let me down again.
You damn dirty apes.
No, he says something about stupid apes, blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
yeah, I think I remember that. I mean, do you really want me to go and look it up? No.
Well, normally you do, but don't worry about it now. It's fine. Yes, so the Doctor storms off in a huff, and hence a minute and a half before the NCS, whatever. And
I did it again. I picked up another stupid 8. I should have.
Kirsty. That's what the bit I was looking. See, this is how you do it, Kirby.
Yeah.
Anyway, the cost doctor notices something in the sky while these people in the neighbourhood start disappearing. I bet the tramp who was drinking out of the cider bottle was particularly gutted that he went, the cider bottle stayed. Rose gets friendlier with Pete, and of course there's talk of the fact that he's heading for a wedding, and she knows which wedding that
he's heading for a wedding.
Heading for a wedding. That's all right, isn't it?
That sounds ominous.
Perfect poetry, that is.
There's nothing wrong with it. I was just admiring your wordplay, sir.
My what?
Your wordplay.
Oh, when you say wordplay, sir, it sounded like you said word pleasure. Oh, right.
That's how you want to have it, mate. That's up to you.
So polite when he has a decent microphone.
No, all it is, Kirby, is that I've realised I actually like Adam, and I should stop being nasty to him all the time for fun. That will come later.
Well, I don't think anybody else has considered that as a
phone number for that.
And also because it's a lot better to be audible, and when you can be heard, it's nicer to be nice rather than just sit here saying you're fat.
He's only in a good mood because Man United beat Man City. It's the only way he's been.
And
what?
Not only that, I had chip shop chips for tea, and I'm on a diet, so that was a real treat.
Do be careful how you say that, please.
Also, I got a new shed yesterday, and patio slabs, and now, this is one of the last times I might be in this shed doing this. I'll be in a new shed from soon.
Oh.
Does that mean we can call you Two Sheds?
Well, actually, it could be 3 sheds at the moment. Because I've got 3. Well, actually, technically, tomorrow when I pick the other one up, I'll have 4. So I haven't got enough room in the garden. I need a bigger garden. Can you call
Arthur
me
4 Sheds Jackson?
Anyway,
right,
carry on.
You need to get a shed which is blue and about the size and shape of a police box.
Why didn't I see that one coming?
Kirby, do you know what? I've really thought about making some sort of TARDIS at the entrance of the shed, so you walk through into the TARDIS. But that's just will get me kicked in by all the kids.
That's what would happen to me in the same instance. Right. Where to go? Oh yes, the Doctor's in a mood, but these Reapers are sort of starting to. I love the bit where he opens the TARDIS and there's nothing in it. It's basically when you go to a convention and someone's got the TARDIS on the stage and you open the doors up. Essentially, what it looks like. Yes.
That scene was originally going to also include the TARDIS falling apart, but they cut it for budgetary reasons.
Splendid, thank you for that, Kirby. So he decides.
Don't be mean.
Thank you.
That's interesting, man.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
That's interesting. So Pete drives Rose to the wedding. Rose hasn't sort of got herself done up for the wedding at all, where Pete has a very posh 80s jacket on. Rose makes a phone call, of course. Pete says, "Who's a phone?" And there's some words coming through on the phone, repeated words, aren't they? I can't remember what they are now.
Watson, come here.
That's it. The first ever phone call, wasn't it? From
yes, but it's incorrect.
Thought it might be somehow.
Go on.
Anyway, while they're driving,
what's the correct one then? Don't leave us hanging, sweetie.
I know. Yeah. I mean, you can't give us half of the story.
Hang on, let me get to my notes.
What you've built this up twice now.
The quote in the story is, "Watson, come here, I need you," when he actually said, "Watson, come here, I want you."
Oh boy.
Well, the thing is,
maybe it was copyright.
Well, if he wants him but he doesn't need him, there's no way that he's ever going to love him. So don't do that. He's not bad.
Welcome to the What Alexander Graham Bell Actually Said podcast. Can we get back to Doctor Who?
With 500 followers.
Right. Anyway, while they're driving to the wedding, in the rear view mirror, they spy the car that killed Pete. They keep killing Pete. Wanting to kill him anyway. Meanwhile, Big Nose Dad at the wedding has a humongous mobile phone, just to point out that this is the time that mobile phones sort of started coming in, although I didn't have one until 1995.
He must have been quite rich because that's an expensive phone.
I mean, I don't even know if those were available
they
here.
Were.
You know,
well, I don't know, probably were available because America had everything
That was a
first.
Motorola.
Yeah. Which is ironic because the Motorola wanted to roll over Pete, so I think that's quite an appropriate.
Oh, I see what you've done there, and I ignored it.
Oh. I thought that was on a par with Kirby's stuff.
Oh, he's getting better. He's less polite now.
Anyway,
It's getting further away from final whistle.
Yeah, so the Motorola, you say, I didn't have a mobile phone until 1995, maybe 96, and it was much smaller than that, but still quite chunky.
Mine was pretty chunky, and I had it in, 92?
Yeah, I think it was a Nokia 5001 or something like that, my first. No, it wasn't.
We had one in 93.
Here we go.
We could only use it in the car.
Any advances on 1993?
No, but I am due a new phone next Monday.
Yeah.
I can upgrade next week, so bye-bye iPhone, whatever I've got. Hello, iPhone new one.
I want an iPhone 12 Pro because I love the cameras on it are rather cool. Right, where to get up to?
iPhone 50.
So people are arriving at the wedding, including the bride, in a sort of meringue.
It's called a wedding dress, Adam. It's called a wedding dress.
No, it's a meringue, I think they called it, didn't they? Because she said,
it was a very, very big wedding dress.
What else we got coming through on the feed? We got Robert Venstrom who says, hello, everyone.
Hello, Robert.
Brandon Moore says, you will be upgraded. Yeah, that'd be fun, wouldn't it?
You will be like us.
Yeah, thank you.
You're right, Kurt.
Yeah.
Just sit on something.
So Pete arrives at the wedding with suspicious looks from Jackie because she's arrived with a blonde, and
she left with a brunette.
Yeah, Rose can't resist to say stupid things to her mother, who doesn't know it's her. And while all this is going on, some children start disappearing. Sorry, Ben.
Don't you think that's really, really good, really clever, the way they played on that? The way it was, she was talking to her mum, she was talking to her daughter, but not knowing it was her daughter. It was I thought it was really clever.
It was very Back to the Future.
It was, yeah, apart from there was no under the sea dance.
And there was no photos with people on it disappearing, but people were indeed disappearing.
But there were no DeLoreans,
though.
Because everybody apart from child Mickey disappeared in the playground.
Good old Mickey.
Well, it was a good young Mickey in this one.
Ricky.
Ricky, yes.
Then one of the reapers appears while they're having a chat outside the church, and the doctor runs along the street and says, "Get inside the church! Get in!" And Big Nose Dad gets eaten during this particular period of drama.
So which was really annoying for him because he still had 18 months to go on that rather expensive phone contract.
Yeah. So they're stuck in the church now. I think the doctor said something about the church being an old building will buy them a bit of time. Cause,
it was the rocks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was made out of stone. That's what it was.
But later on he says it's not as old as they thought. Yes.
Originally the Reapers were going to be basically just Grim Reapers, men looking in costumes like Grim Reaper, and obviously they changed it partly because they were going to look very much like the meme creatures from the second episode, but they obviously did keep the scythe as the end of the tail.
They should have dressed the Grim Reapers up like Death out of Bill and Ted.
Yes.
Kirby, you mentioned the scythe.
Yes.
Did you try cutting your toenails with it? That's a Blackadder reference, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I should have noticed that because Fred keeps playing Blackadder over and over and over again.
Good for a good honour, I should say. Anyway,
but you can tell when Adam thought of that little gag there, he thought to himself, "I've got a cunning plan."
I've always got a cunning plan that never comes to fruition. Anyway, while they're sort of trapped in the church, there's a little sort of view out the window. The Doctor and Pete notice the car going around the corner, the death car, which keeps on appearing, driving around the corner and disappearing. Now, somebody mentioned that's not where Pete died, so why would he be appearing there? Well, that's not the point. It's following Pete. That's why it's appearing there, because they're trying to undo the wound in time.
The undid.
And also where he died in the first scenes when we saw him die is not where he ended up dying in the last scene.
All right, Kirby. Oh, for goodness sake.
Oh, he's got a good point, though.
Yes, good point.
Thank you, Ben.
Stop that, Ben.
So I'm sticking up for you tonight, aren't I? God.
Ben's in nice mode. It is very, very.
I am today. I'm
Very
in a
curious.
happy mood this weekend.
Until those
And
beans
hell.
catch up with you.
Until what's catch up with him?
The beans.
Oh, the beans. Yeah, we were a bit concerned about how long it takes for beans to get into your to do what beans normally do when you eat them, shall we say?
Mate, the amount I'm eating of them at the moment, you wouldn't have to wait long.
Oh dear. Okay,
But it's all right.
It's all
Even
right.
though I've got you plugged into my lovely shed computer, which has got a fantastic soundboard on it that I could blow your mind with sound effects on, I won't.
Good grief.
Yeah.
Yes.
At some point, I believe Jackie mentioned that the driver of the car is very young, but when we see him close up, when he covers his face with his arm, he doesn't look that young.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
Yeah,
Good point.
Judge.
It's a good point, but it doesn't
You're right. I'm
you
old.
to judge.
Seriously,
I mean, just
what's this?
a second look and you're like, oh, no, you can't possibly be young.
Isn't
No,
that-
I'm not
Don't they call that age
Why?
shaming nowadays? Yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks, Ben. Right then, where do we go?
I posted a picture of my calendar for this particular date in 1987, so I was helping run a convention. So I'm old.
I was delivering papers
If you...
all day. I remember it.
1987. I was writing a diary in those days. I was working as a milkman. Yes, when I was working for Unigate.
I worked as a milkman for 2 hours.
Yeah, I worked there for 6 months. It was a horrible job.
One of your books is entitled Diary.
2 of them are entitled to diary, actually, but thanks for
Oh,
it,
that's
Kirby.
great.
Kirby, 2 of them. I have both signed copies.
Well, where do we get up to? Right then, so Pete is starting to get a bit suspicious of Rose and realises that she is a future Rose and gets a very moving moment when he sort of gives a big cuddle. I will point out that while watching this, my beautiful wife decided to... Well, didn't just decide, she just nodded off, fell asleep, and she woke up just before the end and said, it's a boring story, isn't it? I think that's her gauge. She falls asleep, it's boring. Anyway.
Hasn't she seen this one before?
Probably. Most people have. So then there was a few padding scenes with conversations between Pete and Rose. Of course, Jackie walks in, very suspicious, because Pete's been a bit of a naughty boy. And then, of course, we see that close-up. There was a point about the doctor saying Rose must not touch baby Rose because that could cause a paradox and it could then encourage the creatures to come within the walls of the church. So
It's not a paradox, it's a pair of roses.
What?
I just really take that ding from earlier away from me.
You try this
It's a pair of roses, not a paradox.
Yeah, but
Right.
you try this
Ladies
paradox.
and gentlemen, we
joke.
are here today to pay respect
Really?
to Kirby
To that
Bartlett
joke.
Sloan's radio career, which finished 34 seconds ago.
Yes, very good, Ben.
If you want to go down the paradox route, Kirby, I'm very surprised you haven't picked up on the fact that Doctor Who is filmed very close to Cardiff docks, where there's several docks there, so you could at least find a paradox there where the series is actually filmed. But can we go back to the actual episode we're trying to review and forget the old 20 megabyte jokes that aren't very funny?
You're right in a way, Adam, because obviously in Cardiff there is a big water expanse there, and there's obviously quite a big
Dock.
military presence down there because you've got the army dock, you've got the navy dock, and then you've got the paradox.
Yes. That's where the parrots are. Right, where were we? Oh, yeah. So, so I'll move forward a little bit. Another bit of padding. Oh, yes. Then the TARDIS key starts glowing. It gets a bit hot. And, of course, that excites the Doctor because he realises now the TARDIS is sort of active and they can use the key to bring the TARDIS back. And, obviously, a bit of energy from the mobile phone battery and a bit of sonic screwdriver stuff.
It's also very strange. It's one of the few times we see the Doctor without wearing his jacket.
Indeed. And, of course, there's more bonding between Rose and Pete. The TARDIS starts appearing, but Jackie, being Jackie, scuppers the whole thing by handing the baby Rose to Rose, which then causes a thing where one of the creatures gets
They
inside
should have
the church.
exploded.
What
Bloody
should have
Jackie.
Well, the baby should have exploded.
Yeah,
That would have been nice.
Limitation effect.
For God's sake. Then they've both been unconscious and one would have been put somewhere.
But we have to wait for exploding babies until Amy Contact.
Limitation.
See, that they could have done that.
Suspended while they're in the rip. So
yeah, but they could have used that as an explanation as to why her eyes were a different colour. When she was
it's a science fiction fantasy TV
program.
Anyway,
that's not a good enough reason.
Pete eventually realises that the only way out of this thing is that he has to sacrifice himself because he shouldn't be alive anyway. So he says goodbye in a very emotional and brave way. He runs out and runs into the car, and all the Reapers disappear. The Doctor, because the Doctor's died at this point. I forgot to mention this.
He doesn't run into the car. He doesn't go open the door to run into it.
There we go. The Doctor, I forgot to mention the Doctor got zapped by one of the Reapers. I forgot to mention this because Kirby was cracking jokes about pairs of docs. And then, of course, Pete runs over. The Doctor says, run to him. So she does and holds him. And then we have this sort of rather tedious story of Jackie
Tedious?
Child Rose. Tedious. No, the tedious bit where Jackie tells Child Rose about this mystery woman that held him as he died and then just disappeared.
But at the beginning of the story, she said that he died alone.
I know, that's your point. He didn't die alone now. So, history has been changed.
Yeah,
right,
so history's been altered.
Yes. Right then, so Father's Day. I actually really love this story, to be fair. I know I have seen a few comments on slight inconsistencies within it, which surprises me really, because Paul Bad Teeth Cornell... and that's not me. That's not me that created that particular. When people talk of Paul Cornell and can't remember his name, they see, is that the one with the teeth? Yes, Paul Teeth.
What? So there's only one person called Paul in the whole world with teeth?
No, with funny teeth. He's got what the Americans call
British
teeth.
jokes.
Anyway, so no, it's normally associated with Paul Cornell with outstanding stories, and I feel this is an outstanding story. I was thinking the only reason why my lovely wife fell asleep is because she was tired and she'd had one glass of wine, and I get a bit sleepy after one glass of wine most of the time. I really do like this story. I think it's charming. I love the timey-wiminess of it, and I love the way they sort of really did bring back the 80s and a few things. But the only thing they missed really was a lot of 80s music. I think there was one particular song they played was recognisable 80s. But I really enjoyed it. I might be wrong in that, but I actually really love this story. Yes, Kirby.
They did a Rickroll. They played Rick Astley's famous...
Never gonna give you up. Archie,
yes.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben. That's the attitude we're looking for on this show.
And in fact, you in your the last time we did this one, you ended the podcast with that song.
Did I?
I hope he paid PRS for that.
Wyatt.
Those are in the days when he was putting a lot more effort into the podcast.
How dare you, Mary?
Those were the days when it was good.
Robert Vance Jr.
We just throw it up, untouched.
Robert Vance Jr.
I think
says,
that's probably actually very.
Robert Vance Jr. says
throwing it up. Yes.
That's what happens when you're tough enough. And then he says, Rose holding Rose. Ah, right. I can close down Apple TV now and save my memory. Right then. So I've said what I think of it. So I reckon we should move on to Mr. Shoveler, if you can remember it, of course.
Well, actually, I've just calling up my notes from last time we did this. Okay, Rose, Doctor Who, season 1, episode 6, written by Russell T Davies.
No, it wasn't.
Director Keith Boak.
It wasn't written by Russell T Davies. It was Paul Cornell.
No. So I'm reading the wrong bit here. Hold on. I'm just calling my notes up. It's a bit of an old, slow computer. I should have started doing this on Thursday. Thank you. That was the beans. Anyway, what did I write last time about Rose?
Oh, God. Here we go.
Rose is a touching...
Rose? We're not talking about Rose. We're talking about...
Rose. Father's Day.
Father's Day,
touching episode.
A touching episode, right. Okay.
I was thinking about touching Rose, maybe, and maybe that's what it was. Father's Day is a touching episode, which Oh, yeah. Which is all right.
Excellent.
No, all jokes aside, I really, really do like this episode. It's very touching. It's brilliantly written, fantastically well acted. There's no silly little fluffy bits in it like there is in some of the other episodes. I think it's all killer, no filler. Very sad, obviously, with Pete dying all the time. He must have got a bit fed up at the end, which is why he just thought he'd stay dead. But it investigates something which I think probably most people in the world have thought at one point, isn't it? It's like, what would happen if that person was still alive? And thanks to the Doctor, Rose got to experience that. But we got to see that it wasn't all good.
No.
It had its down points as well. And, nearly ending the world for it probably wasn't worth it in the end.
No.
But they had a good time finding out. And that's the main thing that we can take from this episode.
Yes.
They had a good time finding out.
Yes, and Spurs have just scored. Right then, what are you up to?
Oh, God, thanks for that, mate. I'm watching it, and it's only 24 minutes, 24 seconds gone, and it's still 0-0. So thanks for ruining the next minute for me.
Well, how come you've got a delayed thingamajig?
Well, I'm watching it on over the internet on what do you call it, Skull
Okay,
Go
well, next time the goal goes in, I'll wait 2 minutes before saying, "Oh, look, so and so just scored." However, that was a good minute and a half ago. Anyway, right then. So,
anyway, carry on.
Thank you.
Go!
Robert Vance Jr. says the lesson is don't believe everything you're told. So there you go. What do you think of it, then, Kirsty?
I don't believe you.
What?
I don't believe anything you told. I don't believe you.
Oh God.
Very good.
Right.
On, though.
It's all right. It was good the first time when I watched it. Now the effects didn't age very well. And Christopher Eccleston and the Doctor in this.
It's Doctor Who, haven't you?
Excuse me, quieten down, boys.
Sorry.
Yes. But no, I mean, and it's the Doctor's a pain in the butt. I mean, the whole setup to me is a bit like far-fetched. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take Rose back and do all of it. Just seems like really kind of. Why do you have a bad night the night before? And he's like, screw it. Yeah, let's just play with time. Let's just take the companion and then we'll go see your dad. It's like Rick and Morty. Yeah.
Kirsty. He's just being a rebel because he hasn't got any other Time Lords to tell him no.
Yeah, the Time Lords would have fixed everything. And I'll fix them. But yeah, it's just I found the premise a bit odd. And then I think, like somebody said in the feedback, they just kind of waltz off. It's like, oh well, adventure over. It's like that was an adventure. You almost eradicated the universe just because of Pete Tyler, and I'm like, that to me is even really more ridiculous. That it's like, okay, so they're just gonna wipe out all the time because Pete Tyler didn't die.
Yeah, I don't think the intention was to wipe out the universe. That's just Rose being Rose. Being bad wolfish.
Yeah. The doctor set up the entire thing.
Yeah, he did, but he didn't expect Rose to do such a naughty thing that she did.
Come on.
Yeah, and this raises the question: if the Doctor can go back and help Rose, change the past, why can't he go back and change everything else in the past?
Yeah, but he said that, didn't he?
What about Adric, man?
Yeah, I know, but he said that. He said that in regards to the actual Time War itself.
Yeah, let's go back and kill Adric again. Sorry.
This time we can not put the brakes on and make the spaceship crash faster.
I thought we'd go slower. Get some popcorn. Sorry.
Because they did obviously change the past. Now her father dies in a different place, and Jackie has a whole different story to tell. So it's like, so he can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
Apparently, these Reapers don't care about these minor story plot details changing. Just major characters, just minor characters dying.
I think the weirdest thing is that they never came back.
Why have the Reapers never come back?
I just said that.
Because Pete Tyler's dead.
No, I mean the Reapers. There's been incidents where...
It's getting better.
Oh, never mind. Sorry, Kirsty.
But yeah, it's okay. And there's some nice character moments. I enjoy it for all the character moments, but it's a bit Doctor-like because the Doctor doesn't actually do. I mean, he gets everybody into trouble and then does not save the day.
He does get killed a little bit.
Yeah, he does get killed.
Yeah, that was a bit stupid, wasn't it? How you gonna fix things when you're dead? It's a little difficult.
Stupid Doctor. I'm glad he
regenerated. How to come back from something like that and save the day? Death? I had death last week.
Not a problem.
Harwell.
Yeah, but it's okay.
Okay, it's all right.
And I still hate Eccleston.
Okay. Lillian Robbins says, yes, the effects are fine. And then Brandon Moore says, I can't wait till Big Finish does the lost story, Adric's Day.
Sorry, you cut out. I never knew that about. Is he Doctor Who's first gay character?
What, Adric?
Yeah.
No, Adric's Day. Not with a
day. Sorry.
But he could well be, but I mean...
You cut out just as...
I mean, you got fabulous microphone. How about you get some decent speakers?
Okay, right. Pardon? Never mind. Kirby, what did you think?
It's okay.
Right.
No, it's an enjoyable one. I will not necessarily go back and watch this one because it is so emotional. Since I have 3 daughters, and it's probably one of the best of this particular series.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but obviously we're wrong, Kirby.
Obviously, I can't wait until Mary.
As we're just about to find out.
Adam.
Yes.
You've got 2 daughters, and you watched it.
Yes.
And I've got 2 daughters, and I've watched it.
Yes.
And Kirby's got 3 daughters, and he couldn't. Do you think we've got the right amount of daughters?
I was sitting down here watching it with one of my daughters.
All right.
Maybe that's one too many, Kirby.
Anyway, this is what Mary thinks. Oh, for God's sake.
Eldest or youngest?
What on earth is that? Kirsty, what have you just sent me a picture of?
Bread.
Oh, it looks quite nice. I can almost smell it. Oh no, that's one of Ben's farts. Sorry.
Oh. Damn.
Anyway.
Quietly.
Anyway. Finally. This is what Mary thinks.
I found it to be shamelessly manipulative and utterly predictable.
I've seen it before.
Oh, well, that's
It's just the performances that, for me, made it watchable. I really did enjoy how everybody did their acting jobs. I thought, because I really got into the dad, and I really enjoyed Jackie, being younger, and I liked the fighting between the two. I mean, it perfectly sets them both up. But, oh my God, so many contradictions. I never did understand the Reapers. I mean, if the Reapers are supposed to be some kind of a bacteria, as the Doctor says, that are infecting the world, then how can it be that he turns around and says that they're a sterilization? Because that's a completely opposite thing to say about them. First they're a bacteria, then they're a sterilization. And he also says that they can't really do much with the old. Well, if that's the truth, then they went after the pastor, they went after parents, they went after children, they went after everybody. So how is this about the older something is, the less effective they are against it? I mean, they didn't seem to discriminate over who they went after. And another thing that really bothered me was that in the car, Pete is talking with Rose, and that's when he gets it that she is the young Rose. When they're in the car talking, and Rose talks like she really knows Jackie, he kind of accepts the fact that she's probably a friend. She knows Jackie really well. But then in the church, when Jackie is accusing her of being one of his, bits on the side or whatever, he completely accepts that. He doesn't argue with her. Well, I thought she was a friend of yours or whatever. He just, so it's like he doesn't even question, first of all, that Rose might be a friend. And then for Jackie, who doesn't know her at all, there was nothing provided there to bridge that. He just accepted what they both had to say. And the doctor doesn't seem terribly concerned about the Blinovitch limitation effect.
No, he doesn't, does he? No, it's true.
Because, I mean, they appear in the past, and then they appear again in the past. And I thought that couldn't happen, that two of them could be in the same place at the same time. And the only time he gets a little nervous is when Rose is going to touch the baby. But other than that, this Blinovitch limitation effect doesn't seem to be on his mind at all. Maybe he forgot about it.
Well, he did tell her not to touch herself. Oh, that sounds rude. Sorry.
That really. I mean, I'd pay money to see Rose touch.
So I just found myself.
Watch Ruby in the Smoke then.
Well, I was going to say in that programme she did after she left Doctor Who, the one about the hooker. That wasn't her. That was. But
yeah,
still.
but remember, Matt Smith was in that program too, as one of her clients.
Oh, Prince Philip, he was.
Other than going after my emotions, I didn't think much of the story at all. It just contradicted itself way too much. So I think this is one of the low points of this era.
Well, thank you, Mary.
This is a science fiction fantasy TV program.
It needs to make some sense. And this one just never did.
Right then, on the feed, we've got Brandon Moore says, "Gosh, they're a miserable bunch, aren't they, Adam?" Well, I'm not. I couldn't possibly say.
We just beat Man City 2-0. I got a new shed yesterday, and I had chips from the chip shop with a pucker pie for I am not miserable.
No, you're not. No. Billy Kirkbright says, "I'm semi-awake."
I love Billy. I love
Billy. Excuse me, I loved Billy before you loved Billy. Anyway, he says
that sounds even worse than making Rose touch.
He said, "Nature called. I'm going back to bed." And then Brandon Moore says, "Lillian has that effect on people." Huh? Anyway, right then. So, Kirby, I presume, because I've been quite busy, I haven't noticed, that you put out a request for feedback.
Of course.
Well, this is your bit of the show.
Make the most of it, Kirby.
Yeah. Sorry?
Neil James.
Right, yes.
Neil James.
What?
Says.
Oh, just get on with it. I thought
Father's Day.
Thought your internet was playing up.
A bit like a Seventh Doctor in Ace.
Go on, Kirby.
Parts of it really remind me of Survival, with the deserted 80s streets and parks with innocent people being attacked from above. This is a very touching and unique story. Great monsters and great music. Chris and Billy are absolutely superb in this story, and the casting of Pete Tyler was excellent. We get plenty of Jackie, which is always a bonus, and even a little Mickey. There's that, Rick.
Mickey, you're so fun.
I must have missed that scene.
I love the moment when the Doctor finds that the TARDIS is just an empty shell. It does drop off a tad once they go inside the church. It's best not to think too hard about the Reapers, but I always enjoy this episode. It's a winner. 4 stars out of 5. And
there you go, Mary.
That's how I think of it, too. So, Robert Witz Jr. has a picture of Snoopy doing Happy Dance.
Right.
And he says, "Great review, Neil. Love the story. Next week is even better, at least for me." Neil says, "Next week is awesome."
Is it? I thought it was Dr. Dances.
Yeah. Let's see. Robert Wintz Jr., my review of Father's Day. One of my favorite stories. The main question is, did Rose plan this, or was it a spur-of-the-moment idea?
Impetuous. She's impetuous.
This story always makes me cry at the end. It pulls at the heartstrings. The music was the music from The Long Game. It was sad at times.
Yes.
When Rose saves her dad, the Doctor was very pissed.
Was he? How much did he have?
That's because he'd been at the communion wine.
Oh, that's right.
2 lines I like are Jackie Tyler, do as I
Sorry.
Jackie Tyler, do as I say. I always wanted to do that. The other is, I'm your dad. It's my job for it to be my fault. And both of those.
That's a nice line.
Both of those were alternate.
That's my line actually for life. I'm a husband. It's my fault. I'm a dad. I'm your dad. It's my fault. Yes.
And an aside, that's Bad Teeth author said his dad used to say that.
Oh,
which is
there you go.
Put it in.
Excellent.
Oh,
that's why he put it in. It's a bit rude, Kirby. Not for this show. Come on.
Back to Robert Wentz Jr.'s comments. Funny about the big brick cell phone. What a waste of the Reapers, only to be used once and never to be heard from again. Sean Dingwall was great as Rose's dad, Pete. Like we will never see him again, wink, wink. My rating is 4 out of 5. Don't be a stupid ape.
Well, they probably acknowledged that the Reapers were a bad idea, which is why we've never seen them again.
Yeah. The other thing, of course... Sorry.
With that, is that how would you bring Reapers back into another story unless it's exactly the same story as you've just seen?
And also, you'd have to get the permission of Paul Cornell to do that.
Oh, that probably wouldn't be a problem.
No.
Oh, I'm sure he'd like the extra money.
Okay.
Exactly. Repeat it.
I'm skipping Ian Kirk's script.
Oh, yeah?
I put a picture of my 1987 calendar, November 7th, where I found some people I was in charge of registration at WindyCon. I found some people who were counterfeiting convention badges, so I kicked them out of the convention.
Did you kick them?
Terry Miles says...
That's what you did to them. Would you take them out of the back and give them a good duffing?
I confiscated their badges so they couldn't get into the convention.
You are one bad mother, Kirby.
Well, then it was a bad counterfeiting thing if you were able to pick up on it.
Yeah.
No, I happened to be across the street at at a shopping center where there was a Kinko's, and they were doing the photocopying there. I just happened to catch them.
Oh. So they were being really, really coy about it then. Did they show you the receipt for the printing after they done it?
Can you imagine? They're in there thinking they've done something really, really clever, and they hear this music playing in the background as Kirby marches in.
They see the eyes of Kirby run with snow blowing at them from behind. Realizing their mistake, they run from the printing shop, knowing they've got no chance of getting into the conference for free now. Kirby wins again.
The next year, I spoke with the people who provided our badges, and the next year I came up with a anti-counterfeiting measure.
You write your name on all of it.
No, we switched to a badge holder that was customized for the convention. It wasn't just a little normal plastic badge holder. Anyway, Terry Miles says, very good story problem is, did all the people stay dead, and what happened afterwards about all the missing people? Well, they came back.
They came back. They showed it, didn't they? I think.
Yeah. That's it.
Thank you. Right then.
Can I also say, while we're on the point of November the 7th,
yes,
can I just say happy birthday to my big brother for November the 7th, because that is indeed his birthday.
Does he listen to the show? Or?
I'll make sure he doesn't.
Right then, Kirsty, I think it's time for your dulcet tones. I've just sent some text through for you to dictate.
By the way, don't forget Robert has feedback over...
Yes, you'll be doing that bit, Kirby, just to pre-warn you.
Alrighty. Rose's mum always told her that her father, Pete Tyler, was a great chap. When Rose was just a baby, Pete was killed by a hit-and-run driver on his way to the church for a wedding. Rose was told that he was alone when he died, and wanted to be with him at the moment of his death. Rose asks the doctor to see her dad die. It's an odd, crazy idea. Anyway, can I see my dad die?
That would be kind of strange.
Can I see my dad die?
That's
yeah. Well done, Linda and Terry.
Can we read that bit with a bit more empathy? Can we go again on that?
Yeah. Rose asks the doctor. No, I can't.
No, impossible.
No. Anyway, moving swiftly onwards. Anyway, Rose asks the doctor to let her see her father pass away one last time. To quote a phrase from
Was he died before? Well, actually, he has, isn't he?
Rose, I am your father.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, sorry, Linda and Terry. To quote a phrase from Hello Hello by a strange Italian chap with a chicken on his head, what a mistake to make! Her wish came true, but she makes the decision to save her dad. She thought that he was just an ordinary man and there'd be no consequences if he stayed alive. Wrong! By saving her father, Rose has created a tear in space and time, which has resulted in the Reapers breaking through and feasting on all the humans. We hear more about Broken Doctor's story, and oh my god, Jackie is actually obeying the Doctor and calling him Sir. It made the Doctor smile. Oh, the Jackie in 1987 looks the same as Jackie in 2005. Yeah, hot.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a thing for Jackie Tyler. Never mind. Moving on. 1987 is just the Isle of Wight.
Yes,
Having been here for the last 45 years, I agree. Although I'd say it's more like 1977. Pete figures it out and knows what he has to do. Shame the driver stopped. That means that the time stream is changed. Rose gets her wish to see him die and is with him, so he is not alone.
Oh.
Okay, what's next?
What's next? Well,
Everybody lives.
I'm still reading.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, what's next? Oh, another mum story. Stay safe and well. Linda and Terry Miles.
Well, thank you very, very much.
Yeah, nicely done.
Hello, Talking About Podcast is in Kirk. Father's Day by Paul Cornell. The title refers to the day in November that Pete Tyler died, rather than the celebration in June in the UK. In the end, Pete Tyler saves the day. The groom's father at the wedding warns him that he will eventually want to turn back time. Pete says to Jackie, "Trust me," which foreshadows the catchphrase of the alternate Pete Tyler, "Trust me on this one."
Ah.
Lots of people have been wiped out of existence by the end of the episode. Rose's father sacrifices himself at the end of the episode at a wedding, and everyone returns to existence. At the end of Series 5, most of the universe has been wiped out of existence, until Amy Pond at a wedding remembers the Doctor, and everyone returns.
Yes.
My heart belongs to Daddy.
Earlier this week, I spilled some cola on my internet router and broke it.
Oops.
I could not watch cat videos on YouTube. I could only use email by going to the supermarket and using their Wi-Fi. It was like that for 2 days, until my replacement router arrived. Thank you. I feel better talking to someone about it. Bye for now.
Thank you, Ian.
Brilliant.
Right then, Kirsty. Oh no, we have Kirsty. Kirby, you have some Robert Haynes blurb.
Yes, he says, "Here's my feedback for Father's Day. I'd quite forgotten that this was Paul, my God, my teeth are bad, Cornell's."
I don't think we need to be laughing at people with dodgy teeth. I think, there's a line that we don't need to cross here.
Yes, we do.
Doctor Who script. It gets somewhat overshadowed by the human nature adaptation. I'm quite ambivalent about some of the themes in this, having gone through my own parents' traumatic divorce and had parents bicker to me about the other parent. Some of the more domestic problems that are Rose's parents argue about hit close to home. I'm not sure I quite like that in the Doctor Who story. Though it's the theme... what? Sorry.
Though it's the themes
I have to scroll
in
up
the
and down.
story.
Oh,
you
the themes in the story are handled well, and it's not hard to be overcome by emotion when Pete recognizes that Rose is his grown daughter and the sacrifice he then makes. It's also funny watching something like this some 16 years later and to see how dated and low-res the CGI models look. They look fine.
Yeah, you do. I agree.
And those CGI shots actually boosted the cost of the episode. Yeah, that's right.
£8.70.
Yeah. Not sure I'm really sold on the creatures, though. They sort of seem tacked onto the story as a way of having a monster, even though I know they were there from the start. And the little kid on the swings, I only realized it was young Mickey from watching the credits at the end. Oh, they call him Mickey. Come
Yes,
on.
they do indeed.
Yeah, cool. I'm enjoying this trip. Onward to Moffat's first official Doctor Who contribution. No, Curse of Fatal Death was not official canon Who. Back when Moffat was better as a contributor, not a showrunner. Oh, and something that puzzles me is the location where Pete gets killed changes. Had not Rose intervened in the second instance, it would have been where they first were, with the car turning left and not stopping. But he ends up with the car turning right in front of the church and hitting him, and the driver stopping. Plus, it just seems so weird that Pete gets hit and Rose is there to be with him as he dies. Then she and the doctor just walk away to the TARDIS. Odd.
I suppose the only odd thing is that the driver of the car, who must have turned left, wasn't at all confused at the fact he'd just turned right in a completely different part of the neighbourhood.
Well, he was probably in some sort of, time warpy, loopy type wibbly wobbly, wobbly thing. So he wasn't actually aware of himself doing it, but time was still playing out for him.
Yeah.
But he was still doing the same kind of thing that he was doing. He was just doing it in a different place, but he was clearly unaware of that because he still had to run Pito.
Yeah, so maybe it comes under science fiction.
Oh, sorry. I say ood.
Okay. Oh, I see. Very funny. Okay. Right, we've got this from Andy Nunny.
Well, good evening.
Very quietly from Andy Nunny, so we'll move on to something else. I can't. It's on full blast. It means I'm going to have to open up Adobe Audition and hope that it doesn't crash everything else on the computer, and then I'll manipulate.
Don't kill Rose's father when crashing.
Pardon? Oh no, I shall try and.
There was a joke in there.
Increase the audio with my skills, but we will play this one.
It was hidden really, really well.
We've got this one from Brandon Moore.
Good afternoon, 20 Megabyte podcasters. This is Mr. M with some feedback for Father's Day. Written by Paul Cornell and directed by Joe Ahern, this episode was first broadcast on the 14th of May 2005, but I did not see the episode until 2009, pretty sure 2009. I said last week that I didn't see a lot of the Eccleston series in order. I kind of saw it as a hodgepodge way, different episodes in different orders. But I've worked out that I probably saw this episode in 2009 as part of the release of the Doctor Who DVD Files, which was a kind of monthly series where they had like sort of fact file magazine that came with it. And but the main attraction were DVDs of Doctor Who stories, and it kind of had 2 episodes per disc, and I probably would have seen both The Long Game and Father's Day for the first time as they are combined on DVD, which I think I still have actually somewhere. The main thing that I knew about this episode was that it had the Reapers in it, because I had seen images of them from the Panini Doctor Who sticker album that they had in 2006, and I remember there was an image of Rose kind of screaming in terror and an image of the Reapers, and I thought, wow, these things are bloody terrifying. And they did live up to my expectations. They're a very effective monster. I think perhaps the most effective thing about them is most monsters that we've had in Doctor Who don't fly. There are robots that fly and drones that fly, but as for actual monsters, not a lot. The Reapers work so well because of that flight. They feel like they're an actual predator that could attack you, and you can't really run away from them. I'm surprised that they weren't brought back. There's a lot of things about this episode that I'm surprised hasn't been brought back either at all or haven't been brought back more. Another is Paul Cornell. Obviously he did Human Nature, Family of Blood, but that's a brilliant record. 3 episodes that are all stonkingly good. And another is Joe Ahern, who obviously directed a lot of the first series, but I'm pretty sure didn't direct anything other than that. And he's really good. The best director that New Who has had until Rachel Talalay, I think. This episode also kind of ties in with Paul Cornell's sort of inside joke of having churches in a lot of his work, and I believe that he's married to a minister, so maybe that's where that kind of obsession comes from. And Pete Tyler was based on elements of Paul Cornell's actual father, although I believe that Paul Cornell's father's antics and of the Del Boy style were a lot more successful. I think he actually owned a betting shop that did quite well. I can't quite remember all the details.
And
my kind of top fact of the episode is that Rose is the Doctor's daughter. The actress who played the young Rose later went on to play the daughter of John Frobisher's character in Children of Earth. John Frobisher, of course, being played by Peter Capaldi. So Rose is the Doctor's daughter.
Well, there you go.
It's been great fun doing feedback for you again. And I'm trying to find interesting things like that, because that's a brilliant fact. And it's not something which I've seen many people pick up on before. Perhaps you've already said it. If anyone has picked it up, I'm sure so. Kirby is on it.
Well, he's most likely to have.
Another brilliant thing about the episode is I love the scene when the Doctor goes into the TARDIS and it's empty. It's just an empty police box.
Yeah.
And so I'm not quite sure what his plan would have been in the church when he's doing that whole thing with the key. I mean, is he gonna actually bring the TARDIS fully, or is he just going to bring back the empty shell? I don't know. I kind of feel like even Paul Cornell didn't know because he knew the Doctor was going to get eaten. It's the only weak bit of the episode for me, because everything else is so good. This is probably my second favourite story of the series, although perhaps once I rewatch the remaining 5, I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Okay. Please do.
Yeah, so until next week, where we are finally in war-torn London, and there's a little boy searching for his mummy.
Aww.
See you next week.
Thank you, Mr. M.
John Barrowman.
No.
That reminds me. I wonder if anyone has ever questioned Peter Capaldi about what he thought about playing a penguin.
A shape-shifting penguin.
Indeed.
Yes.
Frobisher.
Anyway.
Frobisher.
Right then, let's see. I've boosted this audio from Andy Nunny in 2 places. Let's see if it works.
Well, good evening, 20 megabytes. It's Andy Nunny here. It's Saturday evening. It's about 6:10, sitting here with a nice glass of Chardonnay. Cheers, your very good health, everybody. Very cheeky. Just watching Father's Day, and this week I actually remembered to record something like last week when I forgot. Anyway, Father's Day, it's a belter, isn't it? It's got a lot going for it. It's like a bottle episode, because it's such a tight, claustrophobic set, really. You see a brief bit in the TARDIS, brief bit out in the road, brief bit in Pete Tyler's and Jackie's flat, and the rest of it's inside a church. Churches are, as regular church go, they do have an interesting atmosphere. Because there are lots of nooks and crannies. I mean, when Doctors are rushing around doing all the doors, you do realise how many nooks and crannies, how many areas they've got in there, and also the age of the place does really just count, doesn't it? Another interesting thing is the Doctor isn't really the main character. The main character, is it Rose, is it Pete? Because the Doctor actually drops out towards the end when he gets taken by the I can't remember what they call it. Did they actually have a name? I'm not really sure, but it allowed Rose to come forward. It just shows what a strong actress Billie Piper actually is. And then, when it's announced from London, oh, crikey, she's thinking of a pop star. I did because they want to. Wasn't that what it's called? Some dreadful piece.
That's correct.
But actually, she is actually a very strong actress. And I think the way she works with Pete Tyler, so she won't think well, and with Jackie, never remember her name. I know she's got to do 2 C's, but anyway. But she's worked well as well. I think the way the story works, it's because it's something we don't know about, and you don't get to see a lot of these monsters until really the very end. But in a way, they're not important, because it's what they're doing, what's going on, and the fact you don't know what's going on in the rest of the world. I mean, Pete did at one point with smoke coming to the city, the guy's phone doesn't work, he can't think. Interestingly, he goes back to the first ever telephone message. There was obviously some sort of being there that did pass me by, I must admit.
Me too.
I think it's like.
But it's interesting the fact that suddenly you again, it's such a claustrophobic thing, because these, as the doctor said, we're the only people left in the world, aren't we? Because he's going all over the world, they're going to sterilise the entire world. And I think that really does work well, because it makes you think a lot. You don't actually see things. It's left a lot to the imagination, which I think, somebody said the best monsters are those that you have in your mind, and that's in a way what this is. And it's listening to people, listening to the Doctor, and trying to understand what's going on, and they just can't comprehend it, can they? The guy's dad's dead. I mean, poor Vicar, he went straight away, didn't he? Poor soul. But I think that it's so tight. And it's interesting, the fact that Pete does realise who Rose is, and then Jackie comes to accept it, which is good. Because I think, of course, this does set up a lot. We didn't know at the time that this would have implications in the future with the future Doctor, with the alternate universe, with Mickey there, a young Mickey. It's a great point. You don't really pick up on that, do you? And then we have the death scene. And again, it's good because you don't actually see the death scene. You don't see him being killed. It gives an imagination. But by God, that really did. I mean, it was a tearjerker. Coming from someone who has been through it twice with both his parents. It's until it actually happens to you, you don't realise what it's going to be like. And I think just watching Rose, with her dying father, something she couldn't do at the time because she'd have been she'd been a baby, wouldn't she, when it happened? But I think that was just so well written. This is such a tightly crafted episode. It's an absolute cracker, and I think the relationship between Rose and the Doctor is shown. The fact that they bicker, they fight, but they're always there for each other. They go off together at the end, and it sets up with Rose, with Jackie, with Pete. It sets the thing up for the future as well. We didn't know at the time, and you go back and watch those episodes now and realise how relevant it all was. I just really did enjoy it. You seen it?
Well, thank you very much, Andy.
Master?
Yes.
I've brought up the Wikipedia article about Frobisher, and this is interesting and ties in with last week.
Mm.
Apparently, IDW's 50th anniversary comic book miniseries, Doctor Who Prisoners of Time, number 6, Frobisher was traveling with the Doctor and Perry, and they were Frobisher posed as Perry so he could be captured by the mysterious foe abducting past companions. When their adversaries, revealed to be the Ninth Doctor's ex-companion Adam Mitchell and the Master, attempted to kill the captured companions, Frobisher revealed that he had replaced the detonator Mitchell would have used. So, Frobisher and Adam Mitchell were in the same story.
Thank you for that. Brandon Moore's... sorry.
A little bit, actually.
Oh, go on then, yes.
Because in that episode, and that little bit, that Kirby just did there, he mentioned, of course, Perry, who's played by Nicola Bryant.
Yes.
Now, there is a lovely website on Facebook called Nicola's Norks, which is a fan site for Nicola Bryant, and all this is brilliant about her.
And there's nothing sexist about it at all, is there?
No, absolutely not. No, it is just a pure website dedicated to the love of such a beautiful, talented, wonderfully actress-y lady. And if you'd like to go and find Nicola's Norks on Facebook, like it and subscribe. And then because it's funny because every now and again I get a little ping on my phone. It's someone who likes it, and I forget it's there a lot of the time because I haven't added to it for about 9 years. But so there's a little thing for you, and that's sponsored by the indierockdiscoradio.com.
Yeah, thank you for that. Brandon Moore said, "Isn't Ben at WindyCon?"
I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, that leaves us one last bit of blurb to be dictated by the even more dulcet tones of Mary Lang. It's Alan T. Butcher.
Yes, and I have to thank Alan T. Butcher, or maybe not him, but at least this episode did not contain the long and unpronounceable names of any creatures or planets that he would have sprinkled probably 5 or 6 times throughout his
case, Mary, we expect this to be read absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
no
pressure.
Reaper is easy to pronounce.
Minus those terribly unpronounceable words, that does make the review so much easier to read. Okay, so it starts off with Rose decides to excide patricide, or 1987 is the Isle of Wight Reaper Weeper. Dear 20 Megabyters, Father's Day is, of course, a closely studied treatise against libertarian anarchy. Without the oversight of the Time Lords, this small paradox in time runs out of control, and the only way to address it is through a huge sacrifice by an individual. had the properly settled authority of the Time Lords been in place, albeit at the cost of a tiny sacrifice of the freedom afforded to all by anarchy, then they would have had the power to sort it out without such a burden of sacrifice falling upon one individual. It should be noted that whilst some might think this is irresponsible behavior by Rose is appalling, that's nothing compared to how irresponsible the doctor was in taking her there. We also learn that the Blinovitch limitation effect manifests very differently between a baby and adult when happening during an unwinding paradox. All in all, Father's Day gives me some mixed feelings, since it is overall quite an affecting and credible story, but I think some of the specific calls it makes about the effective actions are overbearing and not consistent with the ongoing mythos of the show. The Reapers in particular seem to be introduced as the monster of the week for the sake of having one, and it is difficult to understand why we have not seen them at any other times after this. Yeah. Certainly the necessary level of danger could have been achieved by threats to Pete manifesting and affecting others, and thereby winding out of control. Once again, the doctor is ineffectual here. He does at least put a plan in progress, but in the end, wholly defeated by the situation, which is this time saved by Pete, working out what is happening. This is great for the Pete character, but the doctor is not the person we used to know in previous incarnations. That said, Eccleston excels again, and though his doctor is manifestly damaged, he somehow is the doctor still. Great cast as usual, and I guess the Reapers looked more impressive 16 years ago than they do now, but they could have saved their money. This story is perhaps 4 minutes too short, as who would not want to see a bit more of Pete and Jackie arguing? Yeah. Next up, Doctor Who and the maternal interrogative, or return of the leg. I don't believe it. Those are my thoughts. Alan T. Butcher.
Thank you, Alan.
I don't believe it.
Thank you, Ellen. That was one of the easiest ones you've ever sent in.
Oh, you're goading him into sending in something more difficult.
I know.
You're not doing yourself any favours.
Redoubled his efforts next time.
Yes, he will.
Yeah, come on, Alan. Come on, Alan.
Right.
We know how wordy he is, and we know what trouble he can cause for Mary. So I expect a lot better. I did enjoy that review, Alan, but next week I expect a lot more long words that Mary falls over.
Get out
and every time Mary falls over a word, I expect a sound effect from Adam. Not one of them. A comedy falling over sound effect.
Oh God, I don't know if okay, I'll find one of them. Well,
you don't have to.
I don't know.
Now, while I have the floor, by the way, now I know I missed a huge chunk of episodes for many years, and that's probably for the best. But have we ever done, as we've gone through all of the episodes, have we ever done a poll of what the listeners and what we think of each episode as to whether it's a good one or a bad one?
Yes.
Yes.
What was the result of that?
Several results, because we broke it down into eras.
I don't mean like a poll of what we think the best episode is. I'm not interested in that.
No, we used to do.
What I'm saying is, we review each episode, we should give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
We sort of do that verbally, but not physically.
But we should do it verbally, and we should also make a note of it, and then Kirby can then have another spreadsheet.
I think with that one, it'd be thumbs in the sort of indie, because I think it was very sort of Marmitey, that particular story. But we have done it.
I just opened up the spreadsheet to put the entries in of who all's on this particular podcast.
It what?
Well, I think that mine's a good idea, and I'm going to sulk now because
No, it said it wasn't a good idea at all. But we have done, when the new series episodes come out, we review those as they go out. We have at the end of the series done the best episodes in order of, in our opinion.
But that's not
that
what I'm
sort
talking
of thing. What?
That's not what I'm talking about. You've completely missed the point, Adam. And that's made it all better. All right, don't worry about me. I'm just trying to add stuff in a live, on air thinking debate. Yeah, trying to come up with ideas. Trying to
God, he gets a working microphone, and all of a sudden he's.
I do love that microphone. It's
mate, seriously, if you knew.
Alan T. Butcher says,
I'll have this whipped together.
Oh,
it'll
no.
be edited properly. We'd all be sounding right instead of me sounding really loud.
Right, Mary, you got to hope
Sorry,
that.
what? I couldn't hear you.
No, just saying. Mary's got to hope that that Debbie's on the show next week because Alan T. Butcher has made some threats. He says, there will be a special effort next time.
Oh, good boy, Alan.
And it would be quite amusing in some ways if Debbie fell foul of that particular threat. And then he says Ben can put his thumb up physically if he wants to. I don't know if that means that's another euphemism for anything.
That's what she said.
Wow. This is a whole new way of sitting down.
Doesn't work too well on an audio presentation, but you could always
who cares about audio, Adam?
a certain sound effect to cover it. Right, we can do the sponsors before. I'm going to let you off. There won't be a quiz this week. Sorry, Kirby. I'm going to let everybody off, but I might do one in the future.
I was getting worried because we're running out of time, and it would be a very quick quiz.
What do you mean we're running out of time? We're not on Zoom. We're not down to 40 minutes and that's your lot.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do it tonight. I'm going to have a week off, and then I might do it next week, depending. Actually, probably won't actually, because it's a two-parter, isn't it? Next week, so it's going to be a more to talk about in regards to the content of the story. But on whowon.co.uk,
is that whowon.co?
Do you?
No, Kirby, it's whowon.co.uk.
You seem to stumble over that somewhat.
I
think you might be right.
Very exciting new product if you like gambling. Because the Waddington's Doctor Who playing card set is out.
You don't have to gamble with playing cards.
Well, most of the time.
I know you're trying to jazz it up.
I feel like a good game of cards would have been a nice lead-in.
Bingo. No, not bingo. That's not a card game. But no, yeah, absolutely.
I have to say though, the cards, although the cards have got Peter Capaldi in the box, which is slightly out of date to be fair, it must be quite cool. I mean, we often play cards. We do gamble, but it's with plastic tokens and stuff like that. While we're playing dominoes or while we're playing poker.
They do gamble with plastic tokens in casinos as well, man.
Yeah, but that doesn't actually mean anything. It's and I tell you what, now, but she's not in here. I'm just scratching my back. Oh God, she's not in here at the moment, so I can say it. I don't think it's likely she's going to be watching it, but Isabella has a tendency to manipulate proceedings when she's the banker. While playing blackjack. I can see her, she's got the cards on the table, she makes funny sort of motions as if she's trying to magic the cards into exactly the card she wants to have out. And surprise, surprise, exactly the card.
When my little ones were young, I used to try and slip, because they were obviously not very good at Monopoly and being an real estate manager like I am. I used to slip them money under the table.
I used to do that. Oh, no, I might have done that. I used to slip it under the carpet, actually.
And they'd always be really, really nervous about taking it, thinking they'd be cheating and everything. Which they were, but it was, it's my fault. I'm their dad. Everything's got to be my fault.
Yes, well, Isabella is very good at Monopoly, but I used to be, but I don't know if she's just sort of enhanced my tactics somewhat. Anyway, back to Doctor Who. Yeah, so who won? Sorry, the Doctor Who.
Can we have a Monopoly podcast, by the way?
Oh, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? Yeah, the Doctor Who playing. I tell you what.
Already your kids in positions of power where they can be bribed. I'm just curious.
Well, one of them's 15 and at school, so not really.
I'll wait then. I'll wait. I'll just keep tabs on them.
And the 21-year-old works for the NHS, so might be able to swipe a few vaccines if he's lucky. Or
anyway,
more likely to be able to swipe
the playing cards, as we're still on whowon.co.uk, are only £3.95. Let me mention the bloody price. £3.95. What a bargain! Get them for whowon.co.uk. It is cracking.
That's not even £1 per suit.
No, and if you gamble well enough, you could win that money back like that.
Are they all Peter Capaldi on them?
Peter Capaldi is the picture on the packet, yes.
Right.
There's also a load of Big Finish stuff coming out. There's the Fourth Doctor 10.2 Volume 2. In fact, I've only listened to a couple of the Fourth Doctor Big Finish stories, and I've thoroughly enjoyed those. Eighth Doctor Stranded 2, Blazing Hour. These are all on pre-order, by the way. Coffee, featuring somebody who's supposed to be at Fancy Con 2, Gareth David Lloyd. Crimson Horror, the novel written by Mark Gatiss, and Dalek, the novel written by a friend of the show, Robert Sherman.
You normally pronounce that properly. You normally say horror, but this time you said horror.
No, you're the one that says horror. Crimson Horror, mate. Crimson Horror.
It's the Crimson Horror.
Horror, yeah, not horror. It's not a Crimson Horror, is it? It's not something you bloody row a blooming ship with. It's horror. Anyway, so that's whowon.co.uk.
Is it?
whowon.co.uk?
Yeah, Lavazzi.
Lavazzi?
Yeah, they produced the best Fourth Doctor scarves in existence, and nobody's actually refuted that. They are.
I wish it were colder. I'd wear my Fourth Doctor scarf to go up and get my second COVID shot today. I should. Ooh. I'm going out later today.
Finally, somebody's shooting Kirby.
I can tell you it is, it is actually cold enough to wear it today. It started warming up a bit in Britain, but this morning there was a frost, and I wore my Fourth Doctor scarf to work.
Chilly.
It was exceptionally chilly.
I was out the front wearing my Fourth Doctor scarf whilst I was attempting to lay my patio slabs.
You weren't though, were you?
I was wearing my Fourth Doctor scarf, my Fifth Doctor coat, my Sixth Doctor trousers, my Seventh Doctor t-shirt.
I'd have to see photographic evidence to actually believe this.
And my 13th Doctor wig.
He's just acknowledged there's the 13th Doctor, everyone. Right then.
Yeah, because oh God, I hate you for saying that. Because David Tennant was 2 Doctors, so therefore. Whowon.co.uk?
The blog on Lavazzi is where you can submit fan fiction, and it's some really good stuff there. So go to Lavazzi, blog.lavazzi.co.uk if you want to.
Well, it'd be really nice if someone would write a bit of fan fiction about a podcast crew who got involved in the actual Doctor Who episode.
Go on then, Ben.
Someone like that.
Yeah, go on. Oh, that's a good one for you.
I'm not going to write that. I've got way too much to do, mate. I've got a whole new shed to put up.
iwheroes.co.uk.
iwheroes.co.uk.
Now, if you're in the United Kingdom, you can get items shipped to you from them. And I must admit, I absolutely adore the WandaVision figures that have just come out. I have one. Isabella wants the one where Wanda's in sort of a fancy dress. I'm not going to say the character's name in case nobody's watched the final episode of WandaVision, because it might be a bit of a spoiler, but in the costume that she is sort of what's the word for it, that ties in with her character, should we say. But there's a few really
it's the classic outfit from the comic books.
Yes. And of course the slightly new Vision there's are coming out. I don't know if iwheroes.co.uk have them yet, but if you go to their website, join, and you also get access to, as long as you contact them, to the pre-orders, which aren't available unless you're a signed up member, and you can also type in searches for certain characters. Obviously they specialise in pop vinyls, but there's lots of other memorabilia and what would you call it, Kirby? Stuff.
Bits.
It's not
I don't know what you're talking about, so I don't know.
What's the sort of things that people buy? Like I can't remember what they've been called now. No, that are connected to the pop thingies. Oh God, my brain's gone. Oh God, and I can't edit this out either. How embarrassing.
Shall I cover for you and say
memorabilia?
I've got a Funko Pop vinyl.
No, memorabilia things that isn't Funko. Like comics, they're a comic store basically, so you can get all sorts of comics there, model kits, jigsaws, graphic novels, games, T-shirts, all sorts of other bits and bobs. For various.
Can I just cut in at this point, because I've got a very interesting, very quick story for you about stuff because you mentioned comics and stuff, and as I was clearing out a house the other day, I found in the back of this cupboard some really old like like manga style comics. Can't remember the name of it, but it was from 1985. So we went on eBay and we searched how much. Guess how much each of these comics were going for?
A pound.
Tenner?
Bugger. Yeah. Absolutely.
So that basically Warhammer, DC, Star Wars, Marvel, so all sort of stuff that geeks find particularly exciting.
Geeks? You can't say geeks.
I did. Why can't I?
You can't slag off your own, mate.
Well, I get excited about it, so I'm admitting that I go all sort of geeky when I go into the Heroes store and excited about all the stuff that's there.
Be pleasant. Geeky.
I'm being blimmin' pleasant. That's exactly the correct terminology. So I'm sticking with that. What else? Something coming through on the live feed. We've got.
Should we have a live poll to say whether geeks is acceptable or not?
Well, I think it is. Robert Vance Jr.
You're not God.
Robert Vance Jr. said, looking forward to listening to the Ninth Doctor Big Finish. And, me too, actually. And Lillian Robin said, WandaVision spoilers. No, I didn't give any spoilers. Thank you very much. I don't think I did, at least.
I did.
Never mind. Next time, we will be... Hang on. Geek is acceptable. Thank you, Lillian.
Yeah, that's one there. Yeah, it's not even half covered.
The original geeks were carnival performers that bit heads off of.
Yeah, thank you for that, Kirby.
Yeah, that's exactly why I was saying it was unacceptable. Thanks, Kirby, for chipping that enough.
Next week, it's the Empty Child Doctor Dances and the debut.
Everybody lives.
The canon debut of Mr. Stephen Moffat, and the story that Alicia watched once as a young child, refused to watch ever again until very recently, in fact, when they did a binge watch of all of New Who and Kyle, and stuff that Isabella watches, which she's a bit of a horror freak. It's a very tame for her.
Get Kyle back on the podcast.
He won't come back on the podcast. I tried again. Maybe a 500, perhaps he might come back on. But
what number are we on now?
489.
Still hold 11 weeks away.
Something like that, yeah.
Have I got to hold on for 11 more?
Well, you're trying to imply you're going to be going after 500 then?
No, of course not. I'll stick around until I get bored.
What are we going to do for 500?
Nothing. I'll do a podcast.
No,
we're going to be doing a podcast. Yes. I don't think anybody's particularly interested.
No, of course they are. Of course they are, Adam. Look, big plans for 500, I say. Why don't we, and just go with me on this, why don't we record it live and you broadcast it on YouTube?
It does go out on YouTube anyway.
What? Oh, no, man, does it? It's like I sit here watching it.
Well, it doesn't go out, no. The video doesn't. The audio goes out on YouTube automatically when the podcast goes out. There is one of the areas it goes to is YouTube. This video only goes out on Facebook.
The 300th podcast was fantastic. The very long one.
Oh no, that wasn't the 300th. You're talking about the 301st, when that was a 6-hour one when I edited all the funny clips from previous episodes.
I have it listed as 300.
What do you mean? That was 300. What are you talking about?
It's called 20 Megabyte. The first 300. It came out. My podcast catcher called it an audiobook.
Yeah, that's what I called it. It is an audiobook. But it's a very entertaining audiobook.
Number 301 was called Back to Basics.
Hey?
And just had you and Isabella.
Oh.
Yeah. I've been sacked at that
is
point.
Very basic then.
Yeah, I keep track of these, you know.
Do you?
Yeah, really. We have an archivist amongst us.
Yeah. But it can be quite useful sometimes, Kirby, actually. You know,
I think it's the nicest thing I've heard Kirby be called on this podcast.
What, Kirby?
No, an archivist.
Oh, I've got a thing here. Oh,
hello, Mo.
Oh dear. I'm gonna put this slider 44.21 minutes into this 6-hour thing and see what comes up.
Hello and welcome to the 20 Megabyte Doctor Who podcast, episode 26.
Oh dear, that's 26. Good God, that was a long way. Let's try this one.
I was allowed to actually put her on the show.
I just want to find a bit of Ben. Hang on.
I'm here.
That's what she said.
That was Kirby. Right.
Why does she hate the podcast?
That sounds like Ben.
Because it prevents me from doing certain jobs around the house on a Monday. But so she's on a mission to put an end to it. Hello and welcome to the 20 Megabyte Doctor Who podcast number 78. I'm Adam.
I'm Alicia.
And because Alicia's time is so...
You can hear the engine of the car running around. So I used to actually do the podcast while driving, which is not advisable. I was just like to point out anybody who wants to go in.
A lot, actually, when you were in car parks and stuff.
Yeah.
And we used to podcast
I was in some of those from car
I will
parks
say
too.
I wasn't actually in the car park. I was actually parked in a hill leading down to Shanklin Beach.
And so what I did, I started going out and sitting in my car at a car park just so we could feel some sort of connection.
Siri, what's the best Doctor Who podcast on the Isle of Wight?
The 20 Megabyte Doctor Who podcast is the best Doctor Who podcast based on the Isle of Wight.
Yes.
So how are you then, Robert? Go on, how are you?
I'm a lot better, thank you. 2 operations in 5 days when I was in hospital. And
that sounds like Robert.
That could be any time in the last 15 years, couldn't it? Sorry, Robert.
It probably was.
Please.
Must it?
That's you, Kirby.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Reese, I've got a very strange picture on Skype, pardon.
Yes, we know who you are.
This is good fun. I think I might have to get told off for being late by doing this.
I can't. I'm going to listen to the 20 Megabyte podcast.
Ooh, you come with me.
Me come with him?
Yes.
Me come with him?
Hello.
These are really good.
No, just introduce yourself.
We're at Robert.
I've done Robert.
I didn't hear a quote.
And we're
I've been
Kirby.
done. I said I thought you were from Fulham.
He did. This is really random.
He just
Might
knows
do.
you.
All right, it might do. Oh, shall I rephrase that then? We'll start with the one that might take the longest, and probably the most,
don't you think
and
you
probably
better
the most intelligent
rephrase
one.
that?
Probably going to go downhill from there. It's Matthew.
Thank you, Adam.
Hey, we've got some voices coming up.
Right here this morning.
Everybody was referring to him as Doctor Who anyway.
But not.
Everybody's really confused by this.
Your hands up.
I'll raise a claw.
So the Doctor and Susan have managed to climb up the drain pipe.
Cool. We're talking about Doctor and Susan. That's going back a few years, Kirby.
Yes.
Hello, anybody there? Or is everybody just
I'm so confused as to what's going on live and what's actually pre-recorded.
Yeah, I know, it is confusing, isn't it?
I don't know who's talking when, yeah.
I don't know what's going on. And I'm watching you, so you're speaking and you're not speaking.
That is confusing. Right, here we go. What's this bit?
30 seconds to go. I'll put on the telly so we can actually keep track
of
it.
Yeah, but the odd telly will be receiving the time
We've
signal
got
a
Big
little
Ben's
bit
about
late.
to go.
No, this is the official BBC.
Yeah, but...
Oh. All right.
What on earth is this?
Shut up. Respect.
Oh, it was... Ben shouted, "Shut up, respect." That was for the silence for something or other, wasn't it?
Yes.
But I can't remember what.
I don't remember.
I didn't remember it, and I don't remember it. But we stopped
If
the
only
podcast.
If only everything had been recorded, I could go back and listen to it again.
No, we were doing the podcast during the minute silence for the armistice, I believe.
Yes, I believe that was it.
Yeah.
He saw the first steam train. His savage mind thought it was an illusion too.
Not supposed to read the whole script. Mep.
As one of Reese's ridiculously long quotes.
Test the audience to just give another shout out. Everyone, say hi.
Good Lord, there is a lot. That was when we had probably the largest amount of people actually listening to the show at one time ever. All 6 of people you had in that room, wasn't it?
That
Kirby?
was at some convention or another.
Yeah, Conquer Cerberus.
Quiet listener.
Quietly, yeah.
He comes from the Isle of Wight, by the way.
He does?
Yeah, that will probably be Michael Sheard.
Sure. Adam called me Philistine.
Andy, have you met Debbie yet?
I haven't. No, it's another treat. So
that's going to be this morning. I'll be taking microphones with me and probably getting Debbie fired.
Aren't I funny?
Melrose.
Stop!
Yes.
I demand fair play.
Kirby Bartlett's Lone.
As your friend said, I'm here in the room with you.
That's scary.
What's that from?
One of the episodes of the show we did before.
Bartlett or Sloan?
Yes.
And what's the title of the story we're doing today? Because I've been away all weekend.
The Woman Who Lived.
Oh yeah, The Woman Who Lived. And then have a bath and then record the podcast. Yes, presented this week by Kirby. Kirby doesn't allow people to have a bath before recording the podcast. Bartlett Sloan.
Kip Pedler obviously then contributed to the next story.
Yes. Not the next story, is it? Next story is Smugglers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
what are you talking about, Kirby?
I was wrong.
Woo! That's happened at some point.
Blimey, that's a bit of
Hang on, that's got to be worth one of these. I'm not going to play anymore because we're too close to the end. No, I was hoping to sort of randomly land on the bit where Andy fell asleep during the interview at Conquest Cerberus many years ago.
Hello? No, that was Hulanta.
Oh, was it? Hulanta. Sorry, Ben. That was fun, though, wasn't it? No.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Master.
Yes.
You in Podbean.
What about Podbean?
Got 300 episodes. You've got the number 300 episode called Search for Jason,
God.
which was put out on March the 6th, 2016. And then the first 300 audiobook was on March the 9th.
Right.
That's also listed as 300.
Thank you for that. That's
I like that clip. What was that episode from?
I tell you what,
I'm so good. Was that live? I don't know what is going on.
It is confusing, isn't it, Ben? I'll tell you what it reminded me of. We did an episode, one of the 100 episodes, where I did a quiz which involved audio clips from the show, and I'd read out what was in the audio clip, and people had to guess who actually said the quote out of us lot.
Yes.
That was quite good fun, but it took an awful long time to put it together, so I won't be doing that again. Robert Vance Jr. says, I enjoyed WandaVision, was disappointed that Doctor Strange didn't make an appearance. Well, that's a bit of a spoiler in itself, Robert. 4 out of 5 for the season, I agree. Very, very good series indeed. There's some good stuff coming up, actually, on the various medias, like Prime, Netflix and Disney Plus and stuff like that. There's lots of good stuff coming up. There's a new series that involves the Winter Soldier and the Falcon coming up soon. And
Master?
Pardon?
Master?
What?
That quote, as your friend said, I'm here in the room with you, is from the Ark.
Thank you for that. That's...
I was confused.
Well, I wasn't. I didn't really care. So next time it's the Empty Child Doctor Dances, and I know it's a 2-part story, but it's quite easy to watch these very exciting and very interesting stories that are steered through the world of Doctor Who by Russell T Davies, and it's in this instant written by Stephen Moffat. Very good fun, so you won't have any trouble watching it by this time next week.
Once again that Moffat is great at writing episodes, but not so great at producing them.
Well, we can discuss that next week. So, until...
we need to discuss that next week. Mary's just given you a fact.
I don't know. 11th Hour was pretty good.
Okay. Oh, stop it. We'll talk... We're miles off that. Shut up. So, until next time, thank you for listening, watching, and taking part of the show. If you want to send an audio in, like some people have, it's 20mb.feedback@gmail.com. Until then, goodbye!
Goodbye.
UK.
Ta-da, love.
Bye.
Geeks.
The 20 Megabyte Doctor Who podcast is an APV Services production sponsored by whowon.co.uk and lavazi.co.uk. We are a proud member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance. Doctor Who is a trademark of the BBC. No copyright infringement intended.